It's Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. This is the CBS Morning News. Pressure campaign. New witnesses are set to testify before the January 6th panel, the alleged scheme that will be at the center of today's hearing.
Because we have to speak for our children, because they can't speak for themselves anymore.
Emotional meeting. Uvalde residents sound off to school board leaders what they're demanding nearly 1 month after a mass shooting left 21 people dead. Hero bystanders. How Good Samaritans rushed to help after a cab driver crashed into a group of people in New York City. Well, good morning and good to be with you. I'm Anne Marie Green. We begin with today's fourth public hearing by the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The committee is scheduled to hear testimony from state and local election officials about pressure applied by then President Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. 4 election officials are supposed to testify, including Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Naomi Ruchim is in New York. Naomi, good morning.
Anne-Marie, good morning. After conducting more than 1,000 interviews and collecting 140,000 documents, the committee is still widening its investigation. Today, they'll argue former President Trump attempted to coerce local officials to change the results of the election. Today, the January 6th House Select Committee will shift attention to a state-level pressure campaign aimed at blocking Joe Biden's White House victory. The hearing will examine an alleged scheme to get electors in key battleground states to meet and transmit false slates to be used to stop the transfer of power. Panel aides say they'll show President Trump was warned of a risk of violence, but pursued the efforts anyway.
We'll show evidence of the president's involvement in this scheme.
Congressman Adam Schiff will lead today's hearing, which will focus largely on Georgia and Arizona. Among key witnesses, Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers, who says President Trump asked him to change the state's law to choose different electors. Bowers also received an email from Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas's wife, Ginny, asking to reverse Mr. Trump's election loss, according to the Washington Post. The committee has requested an interview with her.
She said publicly that she looks forward to coming in and talking to us. So I take her at her word that she intends to come in, and we look forward to talking to her.
And Georgia's Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger will testify about, among other things, the now infamous phone call he received from the president.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
4 witnesses are scheduled to testify later today. That testimony is expected to include death threats they received due to false claims of fraud by former President Trump. Facing pressure to file charges against the former president and some of his staff, the U.S. District Attorney and Justice Department say they are watching the hearings. Mr. Trump's actions in Georgia, meantime, are currently the subject of a grand jury investigation, with a DA there expected to announce later this year whether they believe a crime was committed. Anne-Marie?
Naomi Ruchim in New York. Naomi, thank you. You can watch today's hearing on CBS News and the CBS News streaming platform starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Well, a second American has been killed fighting in Ukraine. The State Department confirmed to several news outlets that 52-year-old Stefan Zabelski was killed in combat. An obituary published in his hometown New York State newspaper, The Recorder, says he died fighting in a village in southern Ukraine last month. Rolling Stone magazine, citing multiple sources, reported that he was a U.S. Army veteran killed by a landmine. News of the death comes as fighting in the Luhansk area of eastern Ukraine intensifies. Ukrainian officials say Russia has ordered its military to overrun the region by next Sunday. And starting today, kids as young as 6 months can get COVID vaccine shots. The FDA okayed the shots from Pfizer and Moderna last week. The CDC cleared them over the weekend. About 18 million children are eligible.
What I've encouraged parents to do is talk to their family physician, talk to their pediatrician, the people who take care of their kids, and have that conversation. And I think over time we're going to see a majority of parents ending up getting their children protected with these vaccines.
Pfizer's vaccine consists of 3 shots. Moderna's is 2 shots. And members of the public, including relatives of those killed in last month's school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, had an emotional meeting with the local school board. Yesterday's meeting started with a prayer before people began criticizing the police response to the shooting. They also criticized what they called lax security measures at the school. Some called for the removal of school district police chief Pete Arredondo.
We were failed by Pete Arredondo. He failed our kids, teachers, parents, and city. And by keeping him on your staff, y'all are continuing to fail us.
We all know that they messed up. We all know that this wasn't handled right. Y'all know what we want. Accountability.
Several Texas news outlets are reporting documents show that multiple officers armed with rifles and at least one ballistic shield were in the school within 19 minutes of the gunman arriving on campus. That's earlier than previously known. Law enforcement waited over an hour before entering the classroom and killing the gunman. Well, 3 people are in the hospital with critical injuries this morning after a taxi cab jumped a sidewalk in New York City. Police say the cab driver hit a bicyclist and then struck several people outside a bagel shop where they were sitting. Bystanders rushed to help, lifting the cab off some of the victims. A total of 6 people were hurt. Meg Oliver has the latest.
It is a mass casualty incident.
In just seconds, a bustling sidewalk in the city's popular Flatiron district became the scene of carnage and chaos. This yellow taxi turned left onto Broadway and first struck a cyclist, then slowed down before jumping a curb and speeding up, careening into a crowd of pedestrians.
Car into the building with multiple injuries.
Police said the taxi pinned 2 women against a building wall. Witnesses said a woman was trapped under the car.
As this occurs, a remarkable scene took place. About 15 to 20 New Yorkers attempted to pick this cab off these women.
Honestly, the gruesomest thing you've ever seen.
Jean-Marc and Garrett Orpin saw the aftermath.
There was one girl missing from her knee down, and then she had a compound fracture on her ankle. And then the other lady was face down. Her left leg was pretty bad.
In all, police said 6 people were hurt, including the taxi driver. Bystanders quickly jumped in to help before paramedics arrived.
We were getting ice and taking like aprons out. We got a belt off of somebody to provide a tourniquet. You know, you just feel for the people around you, and like it was very, very traumatizing.
One witness said the cab driver crawled out of the car and appeared disoriented. He was treated later at the hospital. Police say this crash may have been an accident, but the investigation continues. Meg Oliver, CBS News, New York.
Well, coming up, visiting Ukraine, actor Ben Stiller travels to the capital to meet with President Zelensky. We'll hear what he said. And reeling in a record where this giant 600-pound stingray was caught. This is the CBS Morning News. A fast-moving wildfire in southern New Jersey has grown to 12,000 acres. Fire officials say that it was discovered Sunday in a remote section of the Wharton State Forest. Dry, windy conditions spread the fire quickly. It is 70% contained. No injuries or property damage has been reported, and about 50 people were evacuated from nearby campgrounds. The cause of the fire is not known. Actor Ben Stiller met with the president of Ukraine, and the suspect in a parade attack changed his plea. Those are some of the headlines on the morning newsstand. The Wisconsin State Journal reports a man accused of killing 6 people and injuring dozens more when he allegedly drove his SUV through a parade changed his plea to mount an insanity defense. 40-year-old Darrell Brooks Jr. faces more than 80 charges, including 6 counts of homicide in connection with last November's incident in Waukesha. He pleaded not guilty earlier this year, and yesterday his lawyer said he's changing his plea to not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. The Hill says actor Ben Stiller met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv. Stiller met Zelensky yesterday as part of his role as a global goodwill ambassador to the UN High Commission for Refugees. The meeting took place after Stiller visited the devastated town of Irpin and talked to residents who survived the Russian invasion.
I'm meeting people who've been impacted by the war and hearing how it's changed their lives. War and violence are devastating people all over the world. Nobody chooses to flee their home. Seeking safety is a right, and it needs to be upheld for every person.
It's not interesting.
Stiller also met with Ukrainian refugees in Poland over the weekend. And the Associated Press says a Cambodian fisherman caught the world's largest recorded freshwater fish, according to scientists. The nearly 13-foot giant stingray was captured last week in the Mekong River in northeastern Cambodia. It weighs about 660 pounds. It was released back into the water. Researchers attached a tagging device to the stingray, though, to track its movements, and the fisherman was paid market value for his catch, about $600. Well, still to come, a noble gesture. The winner of a Nobel Peace Prize auctions off his award for a record-breaking price. Here's a look at today's forecast in some cities around the country. New numbers from AAA forecast an uptick in the number of Americans traveling for the 4th of July. It estimates nearly 48 million will go somewhere, at least 50 miles away from home. That's a 3.7% increase compared to last year. 42 million people will drive, setting a new record despite high gas prices. And speaking of gas prices, there could be some relief. President Biden says that he hopes to decide by the end of this week whether to support a federal gas tax holiday to help consumers. The move could help save drivers up to 18 cents a gallon. Gas prices nationwide are averaging just under $5 a gallon. A federal gas tax break would need congressional approval, though. Well, there could be another round of cuts at Netflix this week, and why a Russian journalist sold his Nobel Peace Prize for a record price. Matt Piper has those stories and more in today's Money Watch report.
Stocks were closed yesterday for the Juneteenth federal holiday, but markets are bracing for a world with higher interest rates led by the moves by the Federal Reserve. Netflix could be bracing for more layoffs. Variety is reporting that the streamer is looking to cut costs, and that impacted staff will be told at the end of the week. The cuts could be similar in size to ones that happened just last month when 150 employees were laid off. It all comes after Netflix said in April that it shed nearly 200,000 subscribers, which led to it losing nearly 70% of its value. JetBlue has once again raised its offer to buy Spirit in the hopes it wins over Frontier. The airline says it's increased its cash offer to $33.50 per share, or more than $3.6 billion. That is an increase per share of $2 over a June 6th offer. Spirit is expected to make a decision by the end of the month. And the Nobel Peace Prize that a Russian journalist auctioned off to raise money for young Ukrainian refugees sells for a record $103.5 million. Dmitry Muratov won the prize in 2021, along with a colleague, for their, quote, efforts to safeguard freedom of expression. That is your CBS Money Watch report for this Tuesday morning. I'm Matt Piper, CBS News, New York.
Paramount Plus is expanding across the globe. The streaming platform held a party in the UK where it launches tomorrow. A number of stars were on the blue carpet to talk about their shows, including Faith Hill and Tim McGraw, who star in the Yellowstone prequel, 1883.
The most I enjoyed about it is working with my wife. It's the first time we've acted together, so it was pretty incredible to show up every day and watch her work and work off of each other and to be able to go home at night and talk about the day that we had and talk about the scenes that we shot. That was a pretty special experience.
Paramount Plus in the UK and Ireland will feature more than 8,000 hours of content. CBS News and Paramount Plus are both owned by Paramount Global. Up next, new music from Beyonce. The superstar dropped a new song at midnight. We'll take a listen. Here's a look at today's forecast in some cities around the country.
You won't break my soul. 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 I'm telling everybody.
That's new music by Beyonce. The Grammy winner dropped her new song, Break My Soul, at midnight. It's the first single off her new album, Renaissance, which is due out July 29th. It will be Beyonce's 7th studio album and her first in 6 years. In an interview with British Vogue, she described her new material as having soaring vocals and fierce beats with music that makes you rise. The Tampa Bay Lightning rebounded in a big way in the Stanley Cup final last night.
Palat crossed with Kucherov. Now dumps for Stamkos. Palat scores!
That was one of 6 goals scored by the Colorado Avalanche. The Lightning won 6-2, but the two-time defending champions still trail in the series down 2-1. Game 4 is tomorrow. And a familiar scene in San Francisco as the Golden State Warriors celebrated their latest NBA championship with a victory parade. Hundreds of thousands of fans packed downtown streets yesterday to help the team celebrate. Blue and gold confetti rained down. The Warriors defeated the Boston Celtics last week in Game 6 of the finals.
This is what it's all about. It's entertaining you guys, giving you something to cheer for, to be passionate about.
But what brings me the most joy in winning a championship ever since I won my first one is seeing the guys who win it the first time.
This was the Warriors' 4th championship in the last 8 years. So coming up on CBS Mornings, actress Kristen Bell stops by the Times Square studio to tell us all about her new children's book, The World Needs More Purple Schools. I'm Anne Marie Green. This is the CBS Morning News.
The wolves that come here have an array of trauma, and we see the same thing in the youth that come here.
Our top stories this morning: the House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol will hold its 4th public hearing today. The committee is scheduled to hear testimony from state and local election officials about pressure applied by then-President Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 presidential election results. You can watch the hearing on CBS News and on the CBS News streaming platform starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. And starting today, kids as young as 6 months old can get COVID vaccine shots. The FDA okayed the shots from Pfizer and Moderna last week. The CDC cleared them over the weekend. About 18 million children are eligible. Lake Mead is the nation's largest reservoir, but water levels have dropped so low, grim discoveries are being revealed. And some believe that this is only the beginning. Danya Backus has more.
The mega drought in the West is revealing a dark side of climate change. In May, the plunging water levels at Nevada's Lake Mead uncovered 2 bodies. One in a barrel, Las Vegas police identified as a homicide victim, a man who had been shot probably between the mid-1970s and early 1980s. The second found in a newly surfaced sandbar. No foul play is suspected. As authorities work to identify the bodies, theories and folklore around the who, why, and how are circulating.
We were born from the mob, basically, unlike any other city that you could think of.
Oscar Goodman is a former Las Vegas mayor and an attorney who once represented members of the mob.
If they're able to identify the caliber of bullet, that would tell them an awful lot as to whether or not this is a, quote, mob hit or not.
While there are still questions around the Lake Mead grim discoveries, there seems to be one certain: more unidentified bodies could be located.
The biggest thing for us is that we need to start preparing for these to be more frequent events.
Jennifer Burns is a forensic anthropologist and professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
So we're going to start getting more cold cases from areas that we would not have expected to get them from.
She says climate change is affecting her profession, with water levels receding, wildfires increasing, and the frequency of storms like hurricanes. She believes Lake Mead is only the beginning.
Glaciers are melting, and so those are revealing bodies. So there's a lot of different examples of how climate change is impacting forensic science and human identification.
And it's anyone's bet what will be discovered next. Danya Backus, CBS News.
Well, coming up on CBS Mornings, we'll take you to California, where a unique program pairs troubled teens with rescued wolves at a sanctuary. Plus, actress Kristen Bell stops by the Times Square studio to tell us all about her new children's book, The World Needs More Purple Schools, and the story behind a priceless thrift store discovery. We'll hear from a Texas woman who found an ancient work of art while shopping at a Goodwill. That's the CBS Morning News for this Tuesday. Thanks for watching. I'm Anne Marie Green. Have a great day.